My name is Razia Rashan. I'm the Executive Director for Tualatin Valley Creates. We are the leading arts service organization for Washington County, Oregon. It's not only something that you visually experience, you'll see these benches from across the street, but you can actually sit on them and play with them. Each bench itself is the artist's design, it's their own voice, it's an exaggeration of their thoughts, and then as you play with them, they each make their own sound. And so I'm delighted to share the work of Ben Dye, Matt Burney, Jill Torberson, as well as Judd Turner, and the way that their designs are now coming to life.
My engineering background really heavily affects my art. I want people, when they interact with my pieces, to say, what happens if I do this? How did he do that? Or how does this work? What happens if I do this? So there's this exploration process involved in the creation of the piece, and I want to bring the users along in that process, kind of enjoy that curiosity with me.
Matt Burney is based out of Springfield, Oregon, and his bench is really reminiscent of an old musical box in which you sit on the bench itself and then you crank a wheel and it'll echo sound coming out from the center of it. Matt was a really interesting artist to meet because he himself is also a musician and has that passion along with his visual art and sculptural design passion. His bench will be installed in Beaverton, Oregon, right on the corner of Main Street and First, and then as soon as it's ready, you can come and actually sit, enjoy, and crank the bench and have that music echo from inside the metal bench. I
started my career as a mechanical engineer. You can walk up to the bench, you turn the crank, it makes the music, and there's like an exploration, an element of play, and that's it's giving someone, I don't know, maybe spurring some new thoughts or some questions, or even better. Every physical object could have that element of curiosity and play in it. It doesn't all need to be simply a plastic fork. There's, a million ways to reinvent that in a way that just adds a little bit more to your day. I think a third of the earth is made of iron. It's actually a pretty abundant element. And I think that's like, wow, we're all just on the surface of this big iron ball, right? And here we have access to a small amount of it. So we can take steel, we can make it into other things, and then it can be melted down and melted down and melted down and remade over and over again. I'm always taking apart machines that have some unusual clutch or gear mechanism that to design from scratch would be unaffordable, but here's this blender that somebody's throwing away that has a really nice component in it or something. And of course with metal, I'm always looking to make things just indestructible and long-lasting, but also completely recyclable.
The welding and all came from having to work on the boats and repair equipment and stuff. And then as I would repair, I found myself trying to make it a little fancier than your stock. So I would add these handrails, would get scrolls and stuff, and they'd all laugh. So that was in there from the beginning, this need to create beauty, not just function. But because I do chairs and I do all this stuff, but there's something more satisfying about a piece that is just enjoyed because it's interesting or beautiful.
We were really lucky to be able to confirm local artist Ben Dye. He has a number of works throughout Washington County already, including in Forest Grove, including, I believe, in Tigard as well. Ben Dye's bench will be installed in Cedar Mill. His bench is two-sided, which was also really exciting to see in his design work, because you can sit on both sides, you can play from both sides, and then the sound itself, he is using bent tubes. And so each tube, because of its different length, will have a different sound.
This is the seating portion, and then these tubes wrap around, and if you tap on these and make these tubes different lengths, they create different notes. I'm using the pipe, this as the form to bend the pipe. So they too, from the drawing you'll see they're opposed. It's a yin and yang sort of thing. So to bend PVC pipe, it likes to be right around 175 to 200 degrees. And too hot, it gets flimsy, but to maintain the shape, I'm filling it with sand. So that'll, as I bend it, it won't crush.
The pig just broke into the shop.
So I think public art should be what is meaningful to the community, and what they're trying to say and who they're trying to be. And so the idea is to have it interesting enough where people will search out the other three, and then you can make it sort of a little treasure hunt scenario. So that's sort of my goal, is to produce interesting, beautiful stuff that causes people to think.
One of the things that I really value about found object work and public art is that it draws people in who might not be typical art viewers, people who wouldn't necessarily go to a museum or a gallery. With found objects, you can draw people in who have a process of discovery. They're looking at the piece and saying, oh, I recognize that is the muffler cover from a Yamaha blah 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 motorcycle. And suddenly you have the attention and interest of somebody who may not have gone on his own to a gallery or museum to look at fine art.
So one of the musical bench artists is Judd Turner, and Judd is down in Eugene. He's got his metal fabrication studio there. Judd's piece is called The Wishing Bench. His bench will be installed in Forest Grove, right in the heart of downtown Forest Grove, on the corner of A Street and 21st Street. And his bench, the way that it makes music is actually by using a recycled cylinder, a welding cylinder, and then 2 metal hammers. You'll gently move the hammers and it'll create a gentle gong sound. One thing that we were delighted by is that his design, the bench itself, is large enough to actually have a picnic on it.
So a really fruitful source of sculpture ingredients for me is recycled and repurposed found objects. I also worked for years with a fellow who does motorcycle recycling, and this piece that I designed is called the Wishing Bench. It is a large repurposed oxygen cylinder. This is one of the gases used in one of the welding processes. Just cut the bottom off and got it hanging from the top of the bench structure here, and then built sort of this wishbone shape that swings and allows the bell to be struck and invites the viewer or the participant to make a wish. This just came back from the powder coater today and is just about finished and ready for installation soon.
Oh, this is great. We have 2 pigs coming into the shop.
Welcome to my world. This is Jill Torberson. Here's me. Hello. I thought it might be interesting to show you some of the places I frequent. Steel yards. Lovely, isn't it? Get a lot of inspiration here, a lot of beautiful materials. There's also glorious bins of scrap metal. So this is where a lot of it begins.
Jill Torberson is based out of Portland, Oregon, but her bench will be installed in Tigard. In Tigard's new Universal Plaza is a big public square that'll not only house one of our musical benches, but it also has a ground mural and other activation sites, including lighting projection as well.
These pieces have been designed in laser cut. I used to work at Bridgeport Brewing. I started installing all the draft lines, which required me to have specific parts made to move the beer from one place in the pub and in the plant to other places. So I did these drawings, and then I'd watch the guys that worked there weld them together for me, and I couldn't believe how cool it was. And after Bridgeport, I just took a welding course. I had some time, and I fell in love. Well, I started out with the bench trying to make the whole thing feel and look and sound light. So that's my artistic aesthetic with steel. It has the structural integrity to be able to create things that look like they float and that they're light and airy.
These tall aluminum rods, those are going to be my sound element for this sculpture. There you have it.
Opportunities like working with Tualatin Valley Creates really give a venue for artists to express themselves, especially when they give you the suggestion of, let's make a bench that's musical, something that's whimsical and that people are going to interact with, and that gives some playfulness to our public spaces.